We have a report saying when we should expect the first official full trailer for the Flash film to release. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. I'm your host Chris, and today it's a sweet, simple, and fun video for anyone still interested in the DCEU and the upcoming Flash movie, which, to be fair, has had a lot of very, very successful test screenings where people have said it's a fantastic movie. Now we can dive into this video about why it might be a little irrelevant, but first we're going to talk about when you can expect the trailer to release for this film. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other major movie and television news updates happening daily here on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those are in the description down below. Now, I'm sure you've been following all of the DCU, DCEU reboot news with James Gunn and Henry Cavill and all of that. We'll talk about that in just a second if you haven't, but I want to start off by sharing with you that the first trailer for The Flash will premiere in February during the Super Bowl, and that comes from The Wrap, a big insider group, a big reporting group, somebody who definitely we can consider to be reliable. So as of right now, The Flash is set to release its first full trailer during the Super Bowl, and that will be early in February. Now we have seen some test footage, we've seen a teaser trailer, we've gotten a poster or two and some reveals from Andy Muschietti, the director of The Flash itself, and that's all really fun. We had some big hopes for the Flash film. Earlier in 2019, when DC Fandom had its first event, Jim Lee sat down and talked about the multiverse, right before the Flash panel. And he talked about how important it will be moving forward. Now, we're talking several years ago and a lot of different bosses and even owners prior. But the original plan that DC and the DCEU were going to put into effect to try to fix and remedy the issues of the DC universe was to open up the multiverse and allow for whatever had happened to connect to anything that has or will happen. And that was the big plan. It was a little messy, but it was meant to take place with this Flash film, which, yes, for those of you wondering, does exist inside the DCEU. And that's an important detail. Also inside the DCEU was the original Justice League, Superman, Man of Steel, the Wonder Woman movies, the Aquaman movies. Those are all inside of the DCEU. Shazam, Black Adam, all happening there. The big idea for bringing them out of the crumpled mess of problems, lack of actors playing roles for more than one movie, director fights, disputes, legal issues, was to go into the multiverse, bring in some older characters, create some newer characters, and kind of start over, but without completely starting over. Well, now James Gunn and Peter Safran are in charge, and they've been letting actors from the DCEU go, kind of freeing them from the bonds of the characters they've been playing, and it's been hard to see and it's been difficult. However, it's pretty exciting. And I say that as a huge DC fan, as a huge Henry Cavill and The Rock fan. I like them and I liked them in that role. But it's time for us to start getting excited for something new, and that is the DCU. It sounds like, and by all appearances, it seems like the entire DC universe is getting a wild reboot, and we're starting over from scratch. In fact, James Gunn himself has said that he's been writing the next Superman movie and he's looking for somebody to direct it. And they're coming from a younger Superman's approach, where they're going to be casting Superman, Batman, probably Wonder Woman again very soon, and Aquaman, the core members of the Justice League, and they're going to give the entire cinematic universe a new try, with a central direction coming from co-presidents James Gunn and Peter Safran, and they're going to create something following to a sorts the blueprint of the MCU, where they give you a character's origin story. They tell you about these important staple characters inside the universe, and then they build into the big team-up films. Whereas prior, the assumption coming from Warner Brothers and DC was, well, everybody knows who Superman and Batman is, everybody knows about these characters, let's start with Justice League. And that was a massive mistake, and from there crumbled out the ruins of the DCEU, and we've been trying to pick up the pieces ever since with this big idea of a reboot and this big idea, and then the changing of the hierarchy with The Rock, who himself tried to put DC on his back and create something new, but ultimately it was for naught, as James Gunn, Peter Safran were later hired, and now we're going the route of, well, let's start over. So, with that being said, yes, the Flash trailer will be coming out early February, according to this report. I have all reasons to believe it. Coming out during the Super Bowl, good time to drop it. This movie still can do very well as an individual movie, maybe even ending up finishing or putting some closure for the DCEU as we've had it. Then there's also releasing that year Shazam 2 and Aquaman 2 and Blue Beetle, none of which are currently believed to actually have any space in the new rebooting DCU. We'll also be getting an update about the DCU come early January, and I would expect that to come directly from James Gunn as well. So, let me know if you're still excited for the Flash movie or if you're kind of just done until we get the DCU movies. I still think the individual Zachary Levi, Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, Flash movie, Blue Beetle even will be good individual movies. But as far as big cinematic happenings go, we're going to have to wait a little bit to hear from James Gunn what exactly the direction for this new project is going to be. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you to everybody who watched till the very end of the video. I'll catch you guys all in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.